when you can help other departments. I mean, that's really why, that's how 1 and 1 equals 3, is when your employees are all thinking about how do you drive revenue, how do you manage your expenses, and how do you make, how do you work together and collaborate. And I take a lot of pride in collaboration and teamwork.
You mentioned your church, and earlier we were able to talk about how important our faith is to us personally. How does your faith fit into your success as a business person?
Yeah, I think my faith is, I mean, first for me, it's first and foremost in not only how I manage people and how I love people. Like people that work for you don't really care what you know until they know that you care, and so for me, my faith is first and foremost in not only how I manage people, but how I show respect and love for them, and also you need to know your employees and where they want to go with things. Like where do they want to be? Like they want to grow, and knowing that you're thinking about them and caring for them, and it really matters, like about their home life and their career. They're trying to pay their bills just like I am, right? And they're trying to grow, continue to grow, and I think while I may not talk about my faith day in and day out with my employees, I think how you treat your employees and how you show them respect and how you care for them speaks volumes.
Thank you. One of the questions from our students had to do with mentorship and talent development. Have you had mentors, and have you been a mentor?
Yeah, I think what's interesting about mentorship is I observe a lot. So while I may not always have a direct mentor that has mentored me, there's certainly different places in my career where that's mattered. I think even at Northwood. So Jeff Bennett was a professor here that was here a long time and cared about me. I didn't automatically get straight A's immediately when I got here, right? So I needed to learn and grow and mature, and he always paid attention to me, and I thought that really mattered. So I think in a way, he definitely was a mentor early on, in that, he helped me get my first internship, which not only did I need to for work experience, but I needed at the moment to pay for my bills, to pay for my car, all the way back to that point in time in college. I think at IMG, I had, what's interesting is not necessarily a finance person, but I had a mentor that was one of the senior leaders from a sponsorship standpoint. He was probably the number 2 in the entire company, and he often would talk to me, and he would pull me in if he witnessed something that I could get better in. And you know what? I don't know about you, but it's not always fun to hear feedback when it's negative feedback, or it's something that we often are not comfortable with. But the only way you're going to improve is somebody provides you feedback. And so that's one of the things that I thought was really cool, is he would pull me aside, even though he wasn't my boss directly in the organization, and he would give me feedback. So I believe that was mentorship, even though we may never have said, okay, like, you're my mentor. I definitely have had people that I have mentored from different walks of life, people that have worked for me that have really maybe moved. In sports, often people will move across the country to work in sports. And I can tell you, if you think that you're going to get rich day one working in sports, it often is not the case. I think I was talking to a couple people that are starting to work in minor league sports and getting that experience. You know what? It takes time. It takes time. And people move across the country to work in sports for that dream. And what I think I've often done is like, if somebody wants to come over for Easter, or if they want to, if they want a meal, like things like that, is one way I would mentor, just caring about them. And we've often had that. My kids have witnessed that over a period of time, is, us bringing people in. I also think, like, it goes beyond that. If somebody decides that works for you, that, what, they want to work for you for 4 or 5 years and they want to go to grad school, well, you need to know that. If you're a boss, you need to know that. And so where I've mentored is helping people then get into grad school. And sometimes people that have gone off to grad school that end up coming back, or they end up going and working on another role, and you're still connected with them through this relationship that you've built. And I think those are some of the things I'm most proud of, actually, is, it used to just be when you first start, you're very selfish. You just think about you and how do you grow. And I think as you grow in your career, the more you consider, oh, wait a minute, like, what is my legacy going to be? How can I help other people get better? And I think that's one of the things I find most gratifying now.
So one of the questions from our students was, what do you want to be remembered for?
Yeah, I think I talked a little bit about this. So this is a little cliche-ish with Friday Night Lights, maybe. I don't know if you guys watch this. This is a while ago, but they always talk about faith, family, football. So I talked a little bit about faith already, which is extremely important to me. Family, I want to have, I want people to recognize that I'm a good father and a good husband. If you fail at those things, the rest of it doesn't matter, I think. And then I think, I say football, but what I meant by football, in my circumstance, football is my career. I've had other jobs prior to that. So if we're just focused on the career aspect, which I think you can't really focus only on that, but let's talk about that one for a moment. I want to be remembered as somebody that has high integrity, that's authentic and that cares, that helps people to whatever their goals are. And I think those are some of the things that are most important to me and that I pay attention to now. I'm a lot more intentional about those things now. I think early in your career, one of the things I did is I went back and I wrote down a game plan for life. So, we all make mission statements, and we build out like our game plans for things that we're building, even in college, right? We have a group project. We build out this group project. And we build out this plan. Well, for me, I've put together, and this is a moving project, but like a game plan for life. What are the things that are important to me? And I think those are the simple categories that I kind of look at as, I want to be authentic, and I want people to understand I have high integrity. And at work, I think collaboration is also something that I love, is the fact that, like, I take pride in making other people better by collaborating. So I think those are the things that I can think of off the top of my head.
Thank you. So you talked about your game plan for life, and it also ties in with a great question from the students of, what advice would you give your younger self, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, I think I have to take a second for that one. Well, this is kind of an interesting one. So if I were to go back to college, I think most of the college students that are here are probably not freshmen, but I made a couple of poor decisions that I would have maybe done differently. So what's interesting, I decided that I had it all figured out when I was in college, right? I was going to work in sports. I didn't know if I needed to become a CPA, which I later realized I definitely did. So I had to go do that. So I had a tax class, which was like 8 o'clock in the morning. I also, at one point in time, booked a government class on Fridays at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't want to miss anything. So I could probably tell myself I shouldn't have booked those at 8 o'clock in the morning, because I felt like later I had to go back and relearn some of those things. Maybe I wasn't mature enough to make that decision at the time. And I had to go back and learn it. So like when I got to CPA exam time, I had to, I wasn't going to go in auditing. Well, wait a minute. You need to know auditing if you're going to pass the CPA exam. You need to know tax. Even if it's not your favorite, you got to figure that out. So those are some things that I would have done differently, or kind of look back to when I was at Northwood. And I'm actually having some of these conversations with one of my 3 kids right now. It's like, you want so bad just to get your assignments done, right? You just want to get past the class. You just need the grade. That's all that matters. And what I realize now is how much I love to continue to learn. And now it's like, you know what, if you're not continuing to learn, somebody else is and is going to pass you by. And so I really value learning now. And I did when I was younger, but maybe you weren't mature enough that some of these subjects you didn't like. Well, listen, the government classes, while it might not have been interesting when you were 19, it is now. Like it matters. And so I think maybe that's one of the things I wish I would have paid a little more attention back then when I could, when I had. I mean, when you're in college, you think you're busy, but you're not in comparison to, 3 kids and running around and traveling and doing your job and getting to all their sporting events. It's a whole nother level.
Shifting gears a little bit, thinking back to a pivotal moment in your career when you had to make a major decision that affected the trajectory of your career or your organization. What did you decide and how did it turn out? And what could our students learn from that?
Yeah, I think I was talking to somebody earlier. They were asking me about the agency, the sports agency business. So what's interesting is I was saying earlier that IMG was the largest client agency business when I worked there years ago. I worked there for 18 years. It's a long time. In 2000, I think it was around 2006, the baseball agency, football agency, and hockey agency all decided there was some contract issues, and all of the agencies and their clients decided to leave. Literally, right in the middle of everything, there was an issue with the company, a legal issue, and they all left, and they all went to work for this competitor called CAA. Has anybody heard of CAA, or Creative Artist Agency? Okay. So back then, CAA was not the largest in sports. They were just known as an agency like in LA that did movies and actors and things like that. Well, they weren't the largest in sports. They basically came in and they basically took all of these agents, and all of the clients left. Well, I was the finance director or the business unit CFO for that entire business. That was my job. And so overnight, I was heartbroken. Like, these were my friends, these were the clients I was working with. And I'm like, well, now what am I going to do? I thought like life had ended. It was my dream job working for this business. So within a matter of about 60 days, I find out all of the agents want me to go work for this competitor. So I go out to LA, I do all these interviews, they offer me the job. I'm thinking, okay, this is pretty cool. But the timing wasn't necessarily right. Like, I could have taken that job, but I decided, you know what? I didn't want to move to LA. Some people, it's perfect for them, but I'm a Midwest guy. I wasn't looking to move to LA with, I think at the time, 2006 would have been 2 kids. And and one of them would have been, 1. So it just wasn't the time for my family to move. And even though I thought this was the dream job, I guess my point of this whole thing is, you know what, it wasn't best for my family at the time. So I had to make a hard choice that maybe wasn't totally about me at the time, but it was about my family. And so I made a tough choice. I didn't move out there. I stayed at this organization. I had patience. So I always tell my kids, patience is a virtue. I had patience. I stuck with it. And what's funny about that is over time, I stayed and I took on several different jobs. Before you know it, I was the CFO for 5 businesses within the same organization. And I was doing wonderful, and I stayed. And you know what? Later on, when the Miami Dolphins job came up, who knows if that job would have ever came up if I was out in LA working in this agency business. But I had patience. I worked through it, and a lot of things happened in between. But I think sometimes it's the decisions that you make that maybe weren't popular. I couldn't quite figure out at the time, but we're still positive. Like, there was different steps. I was still learning, and it wasn't maybe the best opportunity for me. And you know what? Other things came along. So
how did you end up at the Dolphins then?
Yeah, so I had looked at working for teams. Often when you're in C-level positions, there's search firms that work in sports, and they'll come and they'll get to know you, and they'll look for opportunities. So the Dolphins came through a search firm and interviewed. I think there was maybe 10 people they selected, and we went through a process. And I met with the owner at Stephen Ross and the president and CEO, Tom Garfinkel. And I think what it really came down to is this organization really matched up with my values. And when your values match up with what you want to accomplish, that's when you jump in, and so that was kind of cool. Even though I worked for one organization for 18 years, extremely loyal. That's a big aspect of, I want to be loyal. I want to do the job. But I was thinking to myself, okay, what are the next 20 years going to look like? And this was an opportunity I just couldn't pass up. At the time, the stadium was a really old stadium with orange seats, 75,000 seats. I was actually showing a couple of people the facility recently, and it was in really rough shape. And Stephen Ross and our CEO, Tom Garfinkel, said, you know what? We're going to renovate the stadium. We're going to invest heavily, and you get to be involved with selecting the seating products and pricing out how we're going to pay for it, and figuring out the ROI on the business, and developing events and bringing Super Bowls and bringing national championships. And not only did we get to do that, but we got a Super Bowl right away. We got a national championship. We have the Orange Bowl. We have University of Miami 7 games a year. We got Dolphins 10 games a year. We've got, but now we ended up building a tennis facility. We brought the Miami Open, and Miami Open's actually happening right now at Hard Rock Stadium. Like I was just there yesterday, and it's this week and next week. It's 2 weeks of tennis, some of the best tennis in the world. And just recently, last year actually, we negotiated basically putting on a Formula One Grand Prix at the stadium. We built a racetrack. It took us, we built a racetrack in 12 months, which is crazy. A permanent racetrack around the stadium. And we're right now building a permanent paddock, and we're in May, we're doing our second race. And for the next 15 years, we've got a race around what we would have considered a parking lot when I first got there. So I think like what's been pretty cool is our business has more than doubled in the 9 years that I've been there, and it's every day is a little different, and that's what I love about it.
You mentioned the importance of values alignment. What kind of culture do you create? Values and culture go hand in hand often. What kind of culture do you create as a leader?
Yeah, I think it almost goes back to what I was talking about a moment ago. It's almost like the mission of our organization and how the mission of our organization lined up with the things that were important to me. So I think I know most of it, but I think I'll read this to you for a minute. And it's, I think the mission really talks about the things that are important to our organization. And so when we're interviewing people, I actually interview almost every director level hire, whether it's in finance, sales, operations. I get to be a part of that interview process. And I think if your whole group of leaders are interviewing people and they know what the mission is and they're aligned with the mission, then they're more likely to bring in people to the organization that believe in these things. It's really part of the culture. So the mission for the Miami Dolphins is to honor the proud winning tradition of the Miami Dolphins through building a high integrity, team first, innovative and results oriented organization. So again, high integrity, you know what, that speaks to me, right? There's nothing worse than going and working for somebody that you don't believe in and that's not honest and is only out for themselves. So high integrity matters to me. And that goes into my hiring and interviewing, as well as how I'm going to operate. Results based, like, you know what, listen, you've got to have results, and you got to hold people accountable. You know, those things matter. And so that builds directly with what's important. Innovation, you know, it's actually in the Northwood idea too. You know, free enterprise, innovation, entrepreneurship, like those are all things that again, directly connect with me. And you know what? Whoever thought at Hard Rock Stadium we'd have a tennis event and a Formula One race? I mean, we built a track that goes all the way around and all the way around the facility, about over 200 acres, but we now have a training facility that we've built full time that we moved into about 18 months ago right next to the stadium. And we've got 30 tennis courts. So it's like a global entertainment destination. And we're always trying things that are new. That doesn't happen if I know I have the football guys sitting up here front. That doesn't happen if we're only thinking about football. Of course, the Miami Dolphins is the main thing that we think about. If we don't have the Dolphins and the Dolphins aren't having success, then we failed. But we can do that, and we own a stadium, and we can run a Grand Prix and a tennis event, and 3 to 6 concerts every year, and soccer matches. Like, we can do all of those things, and I think that's what's kind of cool. And that all of that is because of the values that we just talked about, that then pushes for us to hire people from all over the world that make us best in class.
So you mentioned sitting in on all those interviews. What advice would you give our students when they're interviewing? What are you see the good, the bad, and the ugly, I would imagine, when you're in interviews. What are some takeaways that our students could benefit from? Yeah,
I think details matter. So they matter now. So not just in the interviews, but like if you're going in for an interview, the experience you have while you're in school, you've got to get work experience. You have to get internships. Your experience, the more relevant that it can be, the better. I would say storytelling matters too. So how does your experience matter to your employer that's interviewing you? And you guys can do that here. I mean, one of the things I hated, like, I know that one of the classes you had to do is you had to get up and do projects, and you also had to do a speaking class here. I don't know what it's called, but we had to do a speaking class. You know what? I didn't like that. That's not fun. Some people love it, but I'm not a salesperson, right? Well, I am a little bit, but making sure, putting yourself in that situation where you're getting experience, you're doing it again and again and again, so that you can then tell your story when you're in an interview. Prepare, practice, right? If you're going to play football, you're going to practice and practice and practice again to make sure you're ready for your football game. Why would you not do that for your interview? Practice. So I think those are the things that I think are important. And networking. You know what? What's interesting is, I had microfiche. Like, it wasn't very easy, right? Nowadays, you guys have LinkedIn. You can connect with almost anybody between LinkedIn and Twitter. I just took, not that I'm looking for 100 people to reach out to me tomorrow, but I had somebody reach out to me just today. And you know what? They were so thoughtful about what their ask was, and could I have 5 minutes? And I'm like, absolutely. So I tell my assistant, I can't do it today, but set it up, because I don't mind giving somebody advice that's asking the right way, that's prepared, that's putting the effort in. All of that stuff matters, because that's what I did. You know what? I was trying to pay attention to all these little details to get a job. In the end, that's what it's about, right? You want to get that first job. So that's the start.
Thank you. We're going to switch to Q&A now, and we have some students with some microphones around the room. If you could, please come out to the aisle, and they'll meet you there and with the microphone. And we have one from online, Chris. Another Chris Palmer, 97 grad.
Wow.
He says, "Hey, Chris, you owe me $10 from Euchre."
Oh, wow, that's pretty funny.
We both are creating hospitality legacies that began at Northwood. What will your legacy be at Miami Dolphins organization?
Yeah, so that's funny that Chris sent in. So Chris was actually one of my roommates, and is doing really, really well out in LA, working in a pretty senior position. So that's kind of a small world, right? My roommate, and recently I hired somebody into my business that worked with him out in LA. Small world. So the question was about
your legacy at Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, legacy at Miami Dolphins. Yeah, I think my legacy at the Miami Dolphins will be about leaving it in a better place than it was when I first started. You know what, we've built a lot from an event perspective. I had a pretty significant event background prior to getting there, and so we've spent a lot of time focused on events. None of these happen with one person, so I can't say, oh, wait a minute, Formula One was all me, or tennis was all me, or this sponsorship was all me. That's not how things happen these days. They're a collaboration. So, we're helping each other to get these things done. We're all bringing skills together. Our general counsel was at the NBA. Our president has been, our president, CEO, chairman has been the president of 2 different baseball teams, and is in football and he worked in motorsports. So I think what's cool about the legacy is, we've grown the business, and we're extremely collaborative. And you know what? At the same time, I think we're really good in the community. We do the Dolphins Challenge Cancer, and that event was very small when we first got there. And this year we're actually giving over $10 million to cancer research. It's the largest team-driven event across all of sports. We're extremely competitive, and I think that comes from hiring a lot of people that are not only competitive but played sports, and we want to be excellent both on and off the field.
Any questions in the room? Could you please take the mic, just because we for the online audience, they'll be able to hear.
So you talked about how at the beginning of your career, you did a lot of things for yourself and weren't really looking to help others, but now you're a lot more intentional about what you do. Was there a moment where that kind of flipped for you, or like a person that you met that kind of instilled that in you?
That's a really good question. I think part of it is also like maybe growing in my faith. You talked about faith, or we talked about faith previously. I think faith is part of it too. It's like, like not being so selfish and thinking about, it's not only about you. You're thinking about your entire family. You're thinking about others. I think just from a maturity standpoint, over time, it's been a lot more important to grow other people too. And I think as you become a leader, whether you're the boss or you're just becoming a leader, even in a more junior role, just being thoughtful and thinking about others and growing others matters. That's how the organization gets better. It's no different than on a football team. I feel like I got the football team in the first couple rows here, but it's like, one person is not going to win the game for you, right? You got a couple people that got to make the blocks, and you got somebody that's got to hold on to the ball. It takes a team of people. So I think that's kind of how I feel about that. Yeah.
And we have another one online as you're going over. This might be a quick one. What was your favorite place on campus when you were a student?
Favorite place on campus? This is where I should have done a walk around. It's been a little while since.
As it was when you were here. How's that?
Yeah. So let's see. I enjoyed going to football games when I was here, even though. So that was one of the places I enjoyed. I actually did a little known thing. I did the chain gang for a while here, because it was work study, so I could get paid, and I could go to the football game. It wasn't so bad. I also worked at Bennett Sports Center. That was one of my work study jobs. I don't know if is Zane Colstock still here? No?
He retired not very long ago.
Okay. So Zane was here when I was here. So I did work study and worked volleyball games and the athletic center. I don't know. I think one of the things that I thought, like, campus has changed a little bit from when I was here. Even the entrance is different than when I was here. But one of the things I thought was so beautiful is just the greenery and the expansive campus. I always enjoyed that part of it, being able to be outside in like the spring and early fall before there's snow. is probably what I enjoyed the most. And I still enjoy it, even driving onto campus today. It was kind of cool. Just, coming onto campus. At the time, we used to play. There was a little volleyball court we used to play. We had a couple of my wife's roommates were incredible volleyball players. You wouldn't want to play them. Like you might eat the ball. So we do a lot of outdoor stuff here.
That's great. I think we have time for just one more question. The time has gone so quickly, Chris.
You talked a lot about early in your career how you didn't necessarily know you were going to get your dream job, and you talked a lot about patience during this entire thing. Was there ever a time where you were like, I don't know if this career path is for me? And was there something that really set you back into that, no, I want to keep going in this?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when I was in college, funny thing is I was really good at math. Intermediate accounting almost killed me. So I almost never became an accountant because of that. I probably shouldn't say that.
There is hope for all of you.
Yeah. Mrs. Sumi's here, so I might get in trouble with Mrs. Sumi. Yeah, after I got through intermediate accounting, I think I was good, and I ended up having to go back and, I passed the CPA exam and did all of that stuff without ever working in public accounting. So I did okay. From a career perspective, on the sports business side of it, it's kind of difficult to figure out exactly where you're going to go. You don't always have it figured out. So I was in Cleveland, Ohio for about 15 years, working for IMG for that period of time. And I didn't know what the next role was going to be. I thought, okay, maybe I'll go work for a team. But at the time, I had been offered I'm telling you a lot of stuff that some people don't know, but I could have been the CFO of a baseball team. And I like playing baseball, but I was worried that I was, from a quality of life, that it was 162 games and 81 home games is a lot of home games. It's so to answer your question, I didn't really know what that next step was going to be. And you know what? I think some of it just comes back to bloom where you're planted, work really hard at the job that you're in, be excellent at what you're doing, and never stop learning. So my boss actually has up on his wall an art piece that says something about never stop learning. And I think that's the case. I hire people around me that are probably smarter than me. If they're going to get higher in the SAT or whatever, but you know what? You want to hire people that are really smart and that have different viewpoints, I have people from all over. I have somebody that works for me today from China, Jamaica, Bahamas. We've got Canadians, Americans. I got people from all over the world that work for me. And you know what? I learned from it's diversification of thoughts. So I'm learning from other people. And I think that's one of the things that's really cool is it's never stop learning, whatever it is you're doing. And you know what? Hopefully it's improving you. So when that next opportunity comes up and it pops up, you're like, okay, you know what? That's the one for me.
Well, Chris, our time is drawing to a close. It's gone so quickly. We thank you for investing in the students at Northwood University by sharing your insights, your leadership insights, your view from the position you're in, but also all along the way. And to wrap things up, we have Spencer Stewart, a sport management student who is from Charlevoix, Michigan,
Oh, wow.
and he's going to share some.
Thank you, Dr. Sayauer, and thank you, Mr. Clements, for being here tonight and so generously sharing your wisdom tonight. As I prepare for my career, I have a number of valuable takeaways from this evening. I will always remember to be determined, always follow your passion, and always bet on yourself. I will always remember to be a team player and to be patient. I have also have learned tonight that your hard work will truly pay off. I have also have learned to always expand your knowledge I have also learned to always have faith in yourself, and have faith going in every direction. I have also learned to show respect and care for everyone that you're involved with. Thank you again for allowing us all to benefit from your leadership insight. Mr. Clements, to commemorate your serving as a guest for Northwood's Leadership Insight, a view from the Helm, we have a gift to show our appreciation for you. Please stand at the middle and accept your.
Yes. We'll have you stand in the middle there.
Thank you very much, Spencer. That was a wonderful thank you, and you captured many of the highlights that Chris shared with us. And I think being an authentic leader really shined today. And Chris, you being from the family made it extra special. So on behalf of all of us here tonight, a great big thank you for coming from Florida and sharing with us your insights. What made you and what has become you being a fantastic leader. And you would be a wonderful leader to work for. So thank you.
Thank you.
As I said earlier, we will have a reception on the main floor within this building. But Chris is going to be with us tomorrow. So he'll be joining the sports management class, Professor Marsh's class, which will be a wonderful opportunity for our students. He'll walk the campus. He'll be here at the cafeteria for lunch. And at 3 o'clock, I would invite all of you to come to the meet and greet at the Students' Union. There'll be some light refreshments. We're going to be celebrating our Founders Day. So 64 years ago, Northwood was founded. And we're going to share a little bit of perspective how we got here and some of our values, which actually you heard here tonight. And then tomorrow also, not only is it our Founders Day, but it's our day of giving. What Chris didn't share with you tonight, and I don't think he would mind, I had the opportunity to meet with Chris earlier in the week, and then tonight, and twice he said, listen, I didn't have a lot of money to come to Northwood. What really helped me was not only myself working part-time, as you heard tonight, but also the support that I received from scholarships. And so tomorrow's our day of giving, and that's our annual, once a year, we ask everybody to lean in, including our students. Most of you, or many of you, are here because of scholarships that, or bursaries that you might have received or have received. And so tomorrow is a day of giving back, not only for your current students, but also for those students who are coming after you. So any amount counts. And so if you're graduating this year, students, $20.23, or whatever grad year that you're coming up. So any amount counts, and it does make a difference. So tomorrow's our day of giving, and we'd love to have everybody lean in. So with that, this evening is concluded. Thank you everyone for attending. And for those online, thank you very much. And hope we'll see you down below. Thank you.